I think I queued up the wrong show, maybe. Um, Welcome to another action-packed and exciting hour of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Re-Watch-Along Project. This is podcasting the way it used to be and the way you like it. This show is a production of the Something Else Podcasting Network, and it is episode number 070 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, tape May 29th, 1993. I'm sorry, from May 29th, 1993. Jesus H. Christ, I swear this is not my first show. Tape May 17th, 1993, at the Kaywood High School Gym in Harlan, Kentucky. My name is Arya, and originally I wrote I was the Tracy Smothers to the Tim Horner, but I think I'm the Tim Horner to the Tracy Smothers. Either way, I'm here with my co-host with the co-most. It's Trae. Trae, are you smarter than me today?
Well, I don't know, maybe. I forgot to open my Sprite Zero before we started. Let me do that real quick.
They gaff.
Get that right in the microphone.
Yes, we are a very professional podcast, as seen by me screwing up the intro to the show.
And everybody's just kind of having a week, aren't they?
Yes, and I did open up the right episode, just that for whatever reason the first 10 seconds are chopped off of the intro of this episode, and I didn't notice until just this moment. So here we are. By the way, in case this is the first time you've ever listened to this show, what we do here is really quite simple. We watch every single episode of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, beginning with episode number 1 on February 1st, 1992, and we go all the way to episode number 200 on November 26, 1995. We talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, the so-so, the all right, the amazing, the tremendous, the out of this world, the unbelievable, the unforgettable, the unremarkable, the one of a kind, the stuff you'll remember forever, the stuff you've already forgotten, and everything in between. We watch some matches, listen to some promos, and talk about some angles, and just have some fun talking about some old school wrestling for about an hour. And then at the end of the show, I tell you what else is happening in the world of wrestling, because I can tell you May 29th, 1993 until I'm blue in the face. But this gives you some context, so where you may say, oh, I remember that. Is that what was going on at this point? And I say, yes. Yes, it was. Is my
This is
co-host
going
still on
great. I
there?
heard about half of that.
Wonderful. One fucking derful. This fucking episode cannot get any better if we tried, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We could have done it last night when I couldn't really talk.
That would have been a fucking amazing episode.
Everybody knows we rely on my talent and wit to carry this thing.
Yes, I remember the dark period where I did 100 episodes by myself.
That's rough.
By the way, we have a sponsor this week. The sponsor of this week's show is Arya's Big Toe. Now, I know what you're thinking out there. You're probably thinking, hey, Arya, all toes matter. And I'll be like, hey, hashtag all toes matter. However, while symmetrically, all toes are great, and for balance, all toes are great. But I think we can all agree the big toe is the best toe. With the big toe, it's easier to paint, it's easier to cut. You get the tiny toenail, which is impossible to cut, impossible to paint. But the big toe, it's there, it sticks out. Everyone loves it. And right now, if you go to geocities.com/Arya's Big Toe, you can get 10% off of your order using the promo code Arya's Big Toe is something else. Now you might be wondering what you could possibly order from this website, as I'm killing the joke by laughing through it. However, that doesn't matter. You just get 10% off.
Off of your toes?
Off of your order from Arya's Big Toe.
What do your toes sell?
I don't know, but you get 10% off.
Is it better or worse than me not selling your joke?
Worse, probably. You know, this joke was so funny when I was driving to work yesterday, and then I decided not to write it down and just recite it from memory. And I can honestly say the joke wouldn't have been any funnier had I written it down.
Well, that's a relief.
Yes. All right, so let's go to the intro of this week's show. Bob Caudle and Dutch Mantel. I'm pretty sure they spelled the name of Kaywood High School gym wrong in the graphic. But either way, Bob and Dutch are going to introduce the show.
Welcome to another action-packed hour of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it. Hi, wrestling fans. I'm Bob Caudle along with Dr. Dutch Mantel, and we got a good hour in store for you this week. We're going to see Tracy Smothers in action right here and hear more about the recent heavyweight title scrap. Also, Scott and Steve Armstrong will make their tag team debut here. We'll hear more from Jim Cornette and his new Heavenly Bodies also during this hour. And Dutch, what have you got for us on Down and Dirty?
You know who I have to interview today on Down and Dirty? They have forced me to interview on Down and Dirty with Dutch the new Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champions, The Rock and Roll Express. And I don't relish the thought, but being the professional journalist that I am, I'd have to accept the assignment.
And fans, I know you look forward to that. And by the way, we got to draw for our Beat the Champ.
I have my official Smoky Mountain count right there, as everybody can see. All the wrestlers' names are in there, and the winner this week will be Jimmy Golden will face Brian Lee for $1,000 in the Beat the Champ tournament right here on Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
All right,
Jimmy, my good friend, my friend.
Our television Beat the Champ match, Jimmy Golden, Brian Lee. Right now, fans, let's go to the ring.
He's my friend.
So Trey, I've got a very important question for you. Did you even remember who the TV champion was?
Yes.
I honestly thought it was Horner. I forgot that Primetime Brian Lee won the belt.
Horner was the champion like 2 champions and 7 defenses ago.
Yeah, he lost it to Bob Eaton, lost it to Primetime Brian Lee.
That's I don't know. I guess I have a good memory of for this stuff because somehow I can name every champion in AEW and New Japan.
Who is the never open weight champion?
Ari.
Who?
Ari, Toa Hinari, Aaron Hinari, the New Zealand guy with the face tattoo who headbutts the fuck out of people.
All right. Who's the AEW TBS champion?
Mercedes Moné.
Okay. I will believe you for now. But so yeah, the Rock and his partner Roll Express are going to be on Down and Dirty with Dutch today. Primetime Brian Lee versus Jimmy Golden for the TV title is your main event, and we just got a whole bunch of people randomly wrestling on this week's show. But there are interviews. Jim Cornette's going to talk this week. Yay!
This I felt was a very strong show for interviews.
Oh, indeed. We'll listen to a lot of them. Like we've had better, but to be honest, we haven't had many that were stronger than this. This was just a, really fantastic episode for promos and shit talking. But go to our first match here. It is Robbie Eagle versus the former Smoky Mountain champion, Tracy Smothers. Dutch tells us that this is a very important episode of Smoky Mountain Wrestling and to not turn the show off. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why, but And by the way, I do have confirmation.
Didn't want anybody to miss the. Hey, he didn't want anybody to miss the Cornette promo.
That's true. I do have confirmation that they spelled Kaywood High School correctly. I was spelling it wrong. It does not have a Y in it.
It does not.
It was very important that I looked that up here on the air. So I'm not sure how they fucked up the lockup, but whatever they did, it was so atrocious that we looked at the crowd for a second or two. Dutch and Bob, of course, talk about the Smoky Mountain title situation. As we mentioned last week, it is currently vacated. and it is being determined in a match where there must be a winner on June 11th. I thought Eagle looked really good here. He got to get in a lot of offense, but Tracy's wrestling for the title, and Eagle isn't, and Vince Russo isn't booking. So Smothers won clean with a jaw jacker.
Yeah, good little enhancement match. Tracy is excellent. Robbie is adequate. They meet in the middle at pretty good.
There you go. They then re-air the finish of the Coward Waves the Flag match with White Boy and Tracy, where Tim Horner pulled a flaccid white object out of his pants and began beating up an old man last week. And that counted as a submission victory for Dirty White Boy. And Brian Hildebrand, acting on his own accord, decided that instead of restarting the match, instead of giving the belt back to Smothers, instead of just saying, you know what, I made a bad call, but the referee's decision is final and giving the belt to White Boy, he had the unilateral power to strip Tracy Smothers of the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight title. Now, this was after Bullet Bob resigned as commissioner, so, you know, we needed someone to step up and be in charge, and Mark Curtis decided it was him.
These marks, Mark Curtis, Mark Lawrence, these are the secret movers and shakers of the professional wrestling industry. So we know, like, we see constantly on like a million different shows that, like, okay, the referee's decision is final, but also a referee can absolutely reverse his own decision. So I don't know. I feel we are usually very, very complimentary to Brian Hildebrand on this show, but I feel that was not his best refereeing moment. That decision regarding the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship.
Not at all. Now, you mentioned both Mark Curtis and Mark Lawrence. Are you trying to insinuate that Mark Curtis may have been drunk here?
Oh, nah, that was
all right, good.
I would not imply such things about such an upstanding gentleman. Mark Lawrence, I will make that claim because he is clearly drunk on television.
And if you want to hear us talk about more about how drunk Mark Lawrence is, listen to the Tuesday show. We talk about it every week. And I mean,
that's a problem. We're worried about him.
You're in world class. I mean, everyone was on something. And I'm not being mean when I say that. It's a pretty well documented fact that everybody was on something in world class. You know, someone will tell me that.
Yeah, it's fair, valid. It is either alcohol, muscle relaxers, or some cocktail of the two, judging by his speech.
Someone will slide into my DMs and tell me that Johnny Mantel was clean, which is probably why his brother keeps not even putting him over, why his brother keeps putting him in 10-minute time limit draws with Chris Adams. But
keeps putting a lot of people in 10-minute time limit draws with Chris Adams.
Now, Trae, a few weeks ago we talked about the Observer site, and you know how neither of us have a paid subscription to the website. But you know, torrents are a wonderful thing. Did you listen to last night's Brian and Vinny show as we taped this, the Tuesday show?
No, I don't do a lot of podcast listening anymore.
Okay. Well, on the show, they recapped an episode of NWA World Championship Wrestling, the 605 show from 1987. And Tim Horner had a match, and it went forever, and he was exhausted and then tried to cut a promo. And Brian and Craig and Sean, they talked about how exhausted he was and how he couldn't talk. I made sure to point out to them that is so much better than actually listening to them talk, listening to Horner talk. With that said, let's go to a Tracy Smothers promo where, for some reason, Tim Horner has to butt in. Let's go to that now.
All right, fans, right here, our former Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion, Tracy Smothers. Tracy, I know you're disappointed in that match with the Dirty White Boy and the fact that the title has been held up.
That's exactly right. But you know something, Bob? that young man I just had the match with right there, Robbie Eagle, he was a great amateur wrestler, and I'll guarantee you he's going to be a good professional because he gave me a doggone tough test right there. But, you know, the belt has been held up, and, gosh, I look around and people say, is there problems between me and White Lightning and Tim Horner? Yeah. But, you know, I mean, the fact of the matter is this, that Tim, he had his head, if any, you all saw what happened during the match right there. Don Wright come over, run his head into the ring post, and then popped him with that stick. All he was doing was returning the favor and hitting him with a stick. And the guy happened to see, he happened to see Tim hitting him with that stick, waving a flag. So now the belt's held up. It's a bunch of nonsense, but there's only one way to settle all this. That's me, in the ring. Me and the Dirty White Boy, and we're gonna get down June 11th right there in Knoxville, Tennessee. Right. We're gonna see who's a better man.
Talking about Tim Horner, what was that bad judgment? I was gonna ask you if that was bad judgment on Tim's part.
Excuse me just a minute. Yeah. You know, Tracy, do you have a problem? I just want to know for myself, is there a problem between you and I? Well, no, Tim, not at all. I consider you one of my best friends. Well, there's a lot of people trying to stir up some stuff between you and I. You know, I've sat in your corner and I've watched your back from now on, from the day one that you started having the problems here. And I'm going to be in your corner from now on. So if you don't have a problem with me, I ain't got one with you, brother. Hey, there's no problem here, Tim. I love you like a brother, man. Now, Dirty White Boy, I'm looking right at you, man. June 11th, Knoxville, Tennessee. Me and you head up for the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship, which I should have never lost. Let me tell you this, big man. I'm American by birth, and I'm Southern by the grace of God and by the support of the fans and just a little bit of lady luck. I'm going to be the next Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion. So you be all the man you can be. I know you're not going to back down. I've had some of the toughest battles I've ever had in my life. That's with a Dirty White Boy. Hey, White Boy, I ain't going east. I'm not going west. I'm coming north and south. June 11th, mark it on your calendar, Friday night. Smoky Mountain Heavyweight title is coming this way. I'm American by birth, Southern by the grace of God. The South shall rise again right there in Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right, fans, we'll be back. We'll have more.
Oh, I really need to fucking figure out Skype by next week because Zoom just sucks a major dick right now. But anyway, Tracy promo, he guaranteed Robbie Eagle would be a really good professional wrestler. Oh, well, you can't win them all, I guess.
Maybe he meant Robbie Eagles.
Oh, there you go. He could see the future. It makes
Either
so
I
much
killed the
more...
conversation or the sound just went out again.
Apparently the sound just went out again because I was saying that, you know, Rob, he was looking.
Should I talk or wait? I don't know.
I don't fucking know. Can you hear me at all?
There, I heard that.
Wonderful. So Tracy Smothers can see into the future and knows that Robbie Eagles will be a big star and a good wrestler one day. Horner comes out and he's like, hey, do we have any problems? And Tracy, afraid to get into a program with Horner, was like, no, Tim, I don't have any problems with you at all. Because Tracy can remember all the programs Horner had been in and how they've all sucked since the start of Smoky Mountain.
Okay, the storyline has done the impossible. It has made me sympathetic to Tim Horner. Look, for all of the shit we give Tim Horner, for many different reasons, including reasons we just make up for fun. This mess was not his fault at all.
He was beating up an old man. What is so wrong with beating up an old man on your program?
Hey, that old man is one of the nastiest, most nefarious people in the history of Tennessee wrestling.
He was one of the nastiest, most nefarious people in the history of Tennessee wrestling. Now he's just a kind old man who's in the corner of his brother's, charge. And either Trae is decided now's the best time to never talk, or he can't hear me either.
Back now. It was out for a minute. It picked right back up. Where are we at?
I just talked about how Don Wright used to be one of the most hated villains of all time. But now he's just a kindly old man in the corner of his brother's charge one day. But
Is he though? Is he a kind old man?
we have no proof otherwise.
We have a lot of historical precedent.
Yes, but you can't take, prior results to guarantee future results.
Why don't we ask Les Thatcher about Don Wright? I'm sure he'd tell us.
Sure. Let's slide into Les's DMs. But before we do that,
he might respond.
He might. Before we do that, I don't know what the hell's gone with the local promos this week. They were both taped in the editing studio, and the only other person in the editing studio, other than the ring announcer, was Jim Cornette. So Jim Cornette did both the babyface and heel local promos this week, plugging the King of Kentucky tournament. So the one time I actually watched the local promos. If there's anything wrong with more Jim Cornette promos in your life, but, still.
Still what? I missed all of that.
Okay, we're going to take a break here, wait 20 minutes and come back. Okay?
As we do. As we do.
Yes. All right. See you in a minute. And welcome back. This would normally be where I'd apologize to the audience, but to you, 1 second has gone by. So what the hell am I apologizing to you for? But anyway, we were talking about the local promos that I'm not sure what the hell happened to the local promos this week, because whatever they were supposed to be weren't here. Instead, Jim Cornette was standing in front of some editing equipment doing promos with the ring announcer guy.
Yeah, and it was the same one both times, which has never happened.
Honestly, I only half paid attention to it. And I kind of watched it, but I also kind of didn't.
Yeah, no, it was the same one.
Nice. All right, Scott and Steve Armstrong versus Mike Sampson and Nature Boy Paul Lee. Scott Armstrong looks like the kind of guy who would wear a Confederate flag mask for over a year. I hate to say this because obviously the Confederate flag is so toxic to some degree, at least with a certain degree of audience. It's very toxic. But Scott was a lot more interesting when he was Dixie Dynamite and wearing a mask and carrying sparklers.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like there was an air of mystery, like you knew who it was, but if you didn't know, it's like, okay, it's kind of a little wacky, it's a little out there, it is what it is. It's a nice Southern gimmick. Now it's just, here's Scott Armstrong, brother of Steve Armstrong. And I had to laugh because he used what used to be his finish, the Confederate kick, on Paul Lee, but because that wasn't the finish anymore, Paul Lee pops right back up, and they win with a combo spine buster missile drop kick.
It's the mask that gives the Confederate kick its power.
There you go.
And to be fair, speaking as a failed Civil War historian, it is fairly accurate that the Confederate offense was quite effective for a period until it wasn't.
We're just winning fans all over the place on this show.
The Armstrongs looked really good here, and I was like, hey, I'm in for this Armstrong's Heavenly Bodies feud.
Oh yeah, I can almost guarantee that the matches themselves will be really good. So let's go now. First, the Bullet Bob Armstrong promo, which is going to segue into Scott and Steve getting some promo time.
Dutch, right you are. We've got Scott and Steve here at ringside. We're going to talk to them in just a moment. First, Scott, Steve, let's go back. Let's hear this from Bully Bob Armstrong, and then we'll be right back to talk to these two.
The wrist is better. I've got motion in it. And all I want to do is be able to make one fist, and that's for your nose. I still have to wear the support for my ribs because it still hurts to take a deep breath. And when I take that deep breath, I do think about you. Now, you're just getting a taste of Armstrong retribution. Pretty soon, the Army's going to be in full, and we're good at fighting in the trenches. And mister, you're going to pay the price. Like I said earlier, you're going to pay the ultimate price, because I will not rest. I will not take a breath without thinking about you, Jimmy Cornette, you low-butted, low-slums, psycho-Scandinavian snake feces. I'm going to get you if it's the last thing I do, brother. I'll be there soon, sooner than you think. Like I said before, I'm healing every day. I'm in this sunshine. I'm outside. And I just can't wait to start training again, because when I do, I'm going to be thinking of one man. James E. Cornette.
All right, and of course, you two guys here, and you can just look at your eyes, you can see the fire and the determination there, Scott.
Well, you got that right, Bob Cottle. I want to say one thing. You know, when we were young, growing up, our father was a professional wrestler. It's what put the clothes on our back and the shoes on our feet and the food on our table all our life. And we're used to seeing him come home with a broken bone or some stitches, but it come from a man like maybe the Mongolian Stomper or a Terry Funk or a Harley Race. Well, I'll tell you something right now, brother. To have somebody like Jim 12 sandwich eating, nothing happening, fairy tale fat boy Cornette do what he did to our father, well, I'll tell you something right now. That's something that the man himself, the Bullet, Bob Armstrong, will not be able to live with a humiliation like that. And I'll tell you one thing. The heavenly bodies, the new heavenly bodies, are just like a snake. You cut the head off and they wiggle out every which way, and there's another one. But Tom Pritchard, you big and bad brother, and you done brought one of your relatives in. Well, I got 245 pounds of little brother. And I'll tell you right now, Cornette, we won't touch a hair on your head, boy. We're going to save it for the Bullet, and you will know he is bad to the bone. Yeah.
All right, fans, we're going to be back. All
right, so I got to say, starting with the last one first, Scott Armstrong's promo started off weak, but man, he got fired up. Like that was a fucking really good promo there by Scott Armstrong, I thought.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I thought that Scott was immediately the second best babyface promo in the territory.
Oh yeah,
I guess the third, because I guess the third, because it'd be like 1 and 2 would be Tracy and Bob. So yeah, I just got third.
It started off a little weak. You know, maybe because I'm partial because I'm fat, but it's like I wasn't a huge fan of calling Jim Cornette fat as a great put down here in the promo, because yeah, Jim Cornette's fat. You're also not going to be wrestling him. But Bullet Bob cut a fantastic promo. I got to point out, this might be one of those jokes only you and I get unless you explain it. Bullet Bob's knee looked just fine here in this promo here that he cut in his backyard.
Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah. But Bob says he's starting to feel better. He, makes a fist. He thinks about Cornette. Anytime he takes a deep breath, he thinks of Cornette. This shit is effective. And, it's building up to a match that we all know is going to happen. And it doesn't sound like much of a match, but that angle drew money. These promos are drawing money. And when these two finally get in the ring, it's going to fucking draw money.
I feel like you could write a fucking essay about the storyline as a study on how to talk people into the building.
Yeah. And there's a reason why this angle happens 10 times a month on modern wrestling television. And there's nothing wrong with it. But there's a reason why it doesn't draw 10 times a month. It may draw in the right circumstances once a year. But here you have an absolute legend in Bullet Bob Armstrong, who not only is a legend, but we've spent the last year and a half beating it over your head that this man is a legend in professional wrestling. This man is the good babyface commissioner. He wants the fans to be happy. His first promo talked about how, they're going to have low ticket prices so the fans and the families can come out to see the show. He was the gosh golly gall darn top babyface from the moment this company started. And then on the other side, you have the biggest asshole in wrestling. Jim Cornette, and this guy's an
As,
asshole. And I'm not saying like Jim Cornette as a person is an asshole. No, I'm talking about Jim Cornette, the television character that we've been watching for 11 years. He's a fucking asshole. And once every 5 years, he gets his comeuppance. And it's time for him to get his comeuppance.
and this was this was the whole idea that Smoky Mountain Wrestling was built on. It was going to be eventually they were just getting to this feud.
Yeah. And Corny says it was a little quicker than he planned on. And I mean, I can see why, because they lost. Like, you want to distract from the fact that they just lost all these big name wrestlers one after another for different reasons. So you want to try to distract people from that. So I can see why he went to this angle now instead of waiting, another 6 months or whatever.
Yeah, you had to do something, and it worked. That's the thing. Um, that's the thing about having when you got something in your back pocket, when you have ideas of what you're going to get to eventually, and it doesn't feel like you're hot shotting. Like, and hot shotting can be effective at times, but uh, that's a way to burn out your territory. There's sort of two sides to this coin about effective angles. And it's one like hot shotting can be effective, but there's a law of diminishing returns that if you do it too much, everything's going to cease to mean anything. And the other end is different, but it's the same problem, is that you do it too much and it doesn't mean anything. And that's the problem with modern wrestling, is that there are just so many angles all the time. Look, an angle should feel like a disruption. It should not feel like it's just a part of the show. And when
It's
you've
not.
got all these angles that are just a part of the show, nothing means as much.
Yeah, it's not an angle because it's not time for an angle because it's been 5 minutes since we last had an angle. That
Right.
shit just, there's a reason when you go back and rewatch the Attitude Era stuff, the Austin stuff holds up, the Rock stuff by and large holds up. Everything else is forgettable garbage. And Russo, for whatever credit you want to give him for, the advent of the Attitude Era and all that, did any of those angles from the third match down mean a goddamn thing? No, they really fucking didn't.
And this is going off topic because that's what we do on this show.
Really?
I wonder because the Rock stuff is like, it's effective, and then it was so effective at the time that like he's still god level over today. But I wonder, like, if that character came along today and hadn't been a huge star 25 years ago, I think a lot of people would just think he was a dick. Like, is there really that much of a difference between what The Rock was 25 years ago and what MJF is today?
No, probably not. And I mean, that's the thing too. You know, MJF, I think one of their biggest mistakes was turning him back heel, like at least as quickly as they did. And that's not to say MJF isn't an amazing heel, because he totally is. But it's like they had so much juice left with him as a babyface that it's like, honestly, in some ways, it felt like any time in the late '90s when WCW turned Flair, it's like we're not ready to boo this man. You know that this man's highly entertaining, and it's like he's a heel now, and he's just as fucking entertaining now as he was beforehand.
See, I
And
get what you're saying, and I don't yeah, I think you're probably right. It's just like, for me personally, that whole time MJF was a babyface, to me, it was like, I do not believe this. I know you're a piece of shit, and I know sooner or later you're going to do something terrible and then laugh at people for being stupid enough to believe in you, and I don't believe anything you say and never will. But that was just me.
I think part of the issue too, at least for me, is that they never paid off that fucking MJF Adam Cole storyline, which took an already
Yeah,
bad storyline and made it worse.
yeah, that if
And,
we get a time machine, we got to tell Cole to not jump off of that fucking ramp at Grand Slam.
Oh my God. I remember watching that with my friends Alana and Tim over at their house last year. And I'm like, the second he jumped off that, I was like, I think he just fucked up his leg. Because it was like,
Oh, fucked up his leg, ruined a fucking a storyline that had been going on for like 3 or 4 or 5 months. It was going really well and was the most popular storyline in the company. And after that, they had to scramble to do something, and that's when that shit really took a nosedive.
yeah. So after our little commercial break there to talk about MJF and Adam Cole, we come back to Down and Dirty with Dutch with The Rock and his partner Roll Express. Let's go to that now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Down and Dirty with Dutch. I'm Dutch Mantell, and you're not. Right standing right here with me right now. And I'm glad to have you gentlemen out here, but you'll see around your waist, the Rock and Roll Express are the new Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champions. Now, Ricky, I've known you a long time. It was a tough battle that last tangle in Tennessee. You beat a tough team. Your comments now, and where do you expect to go now that you are the champions once again?
Well, that's right, Dutch, but first of all, I got to say, we must be moving up in the world to be out here on Dutch world, is what I call it. But you got to say one thing. For the last 7 years, we've been trying to get rid of the Heavenly Bodies or the Midnight Express or whatever you want to call them. And you see, Jimmy Cornette, after all the blood, the sweat, and the tears, Stan Lane is gone. And all I can say is, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more. All right.
But wait a minute, not so fast. Not so fast, Ricky Morton. Now, you are the new Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champions, but there is a new team on the horizon, and I hear a big team brought in by Jimmy Cornette, and he is keeping their identity under wraps. Now, I don't know who they are, and I don't think you know who they are, so how are you going to handle that problem, bud?
Well, Dutch, it's just like this right here. Robert and I have been down many, many highways, and every road we took led us to the top because of all these nice fans out here. But one thing, Dutch, they can be 300 pounds. They can be known all over the world. But you see, there's nothing in this world we can do about Jimmy Cornette bringing them in to jump on us. But you see, there's a lot we can do to get them off, baby. All right?
I understand that, but they're a big team. Now, how many years did it take you to get rid of Stan Lane or to get Jimmy Cornette's team? How long did it take?
Well, that's right, Dutch. It took 7 years. But you see, they always had that Jimmy Cornette behind them. This time the mystery team's coming in. He's just introducing them. Whoa.
Wait a minute. We're joined here Down and Dirty with Dutch by Miss Tammy Fytch, a lady who has taken a sexual discrimination lawsuit against Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Now, I'm sure you may have something to say. Your name is Fytch, right? Her name is Fytch with an L. Do you have something to say to me or the Rock and Roll Express?
Well, yes, I do. Since you two have now won the tag team championships, what you need is someone to manage you with a good business mind, because obviously you guys don't know much about business. I mean, look at you. Rock and roll is out, rap is in. I mean, this is tagging. I mean, you've had some success with it so far, but so we'll leave it for now. We'll come back to it later. Just sign a contract with me, and with my brains, my knowledge, and my business mind, I'll take you all the way to the top.
Well, the ball's in your... Well, guys, it ain't none of my business, but, you know, Miss Fytch's idol is Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton took a nobody all the way to the White House. I think she might do a lot of good for you guys. What do you say, Rick?
Well, Dutch, you know what? I think I would love to. But there's just one problem. We're not worthy, baby. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. I'm sorry, Your Highness. Hey, Bill Clinton's got more problems than any of us ever have. All right.
Hey, what about... Oh, don't worry about them. They're a bunch of smart addicts anyway. What do you got to say to that?
Just shut up.
Shut up? I think my first wife told me that. Well, there you heard it, fans.
All right, so I said this was a Rock and Roll Express promo, but let's be honest. It was a Ricky Morton promo, and Robert Gibson was just standing there. As a matter of fact, at the end, when before we saw Tammy Fytch, Robert Gibson just kind of walks around the other side of Dutch, and I'm like, I think Robert Gibson's mad that no one's talking to him, and so he's coming around so he can be closer to the microphone. But no, this is for Tammy Fytch. I gotta ask you, when was the last time you saw Wayne's World, Trey?
When I was a really little kid. I remember like my older sister watching it.
Okay. So yeah, that's in case you're not sure, that's where the We're Not Worthy thing came from. And that movie was like 91, 92. So it's not, like Vince McMahon would probably book someone to do that today if he had the chance. So it's not quite as bad as that.
I thought that I thought that Ricky was just acknowledging that 21-year-old Tammy Fytch was way higher quality than what the Rock and Roll Express are used to taking care of.
That probably goes without saying. But I kind of laughed because the first thing they said was they've spent 7 years trying to get rid of the heavenly bodies, and then realizes what he said, so they had to go like, oh, the Midnight Express or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'll give you that there. So then they cut the promo on the new team, and honestly, it's like I don't know what to think about this new team, mainly because I know who it is and I'm not that excited for it. But they're just like, oh, we're talking about this mystery team that's known all over the world, and I think that's a mistake because especially when we see who it is, they're kind of known if you're wrestling obsessed, but they're not, world travelers or anything like that. But
well, I think at this point they've been to Memphis and Atlanta.
I mean, they've been all over Tennessee and Georgia, I guess.
Well, there you go.
And the people in Kentucky, Georgia might be, as close to all around the world as you're going to get.
You'll certainly find more interesting people in the backwoods of Kentucky than you'll find a lot of places.
That's probably true. Well, speaking of interesting people, let's go to the Dirty White Boy and Mr. Ron Wright.
All right, fans, with us right now, Dirty White Boy and his manager, the legendary Mr. Ron Wright, and we heard Tracy Smothers. Tracy Smothers is looking forward to, he's waiting on June 11th in Knoxville.
Let me tell you something. Tracy Smothers, he'll not make it to June 11th. There's only two things that I've had in my life, Bob. I had an insurance policy of $20,000 that was paid up here about 6 months ago. Had my automobile paid for. I totaled my automobile trying to get to the matches in Johnson City. Now I've done went, cashed that $20,000 policy in. I'm putting every dime of it up, and the kitty is a bounty. Any man here in Smoky Mountain Wrestling put Tracy Smothers out of wrestling, collects the money.
A $20,000 bounty on Tracy Smothers put up by Ron Wright. Don't have a stroke on us right here, though, about that. And I know your heart must be giving you a lot of money. Yeah, Bob.
Yes, sir. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. White Boy, I tell you, all I can say is I hope somebody collects that $20,000 before June the 11th. Because then it's real simple. I'll win by forfeit. Wouldn't that be a nice way to get that nice, big, pretty gold belt? It ain't going to happen, I don't believe. Tracy Smothers is looking forward to meeting you June 11th. That's what the guy is living for. That's perfectly fine. He can live for whatever he wants to. 20 grand, baby, will make a man do a lot of things. Are you a betting man? Long way. Are you a betting man? I wouldn't bet on that. No, well, I'm a betting man. And Mr. Wright, you've got the money, you got it up, and it's up there for Tracy Smothers' head.
Absolutely. I've got the money deposited in a safekeeping, and somebody's going to collect it before June 11th in Knoxville, Tennessee. You can rest assured of it.
All right, fans, you heard that. The bounty. $20,000 bounty on the head of Tracy Smothers.
All right. So I gotta say another A+ promo by Mr. Wright. I don't know, and I guess we're gonna find out here in I think a year because Mr. Ron Wright he doesn't last the entire 4 years, unfortunately. But I don't think Dirty White Boy would be as interesting without Mr. Wright.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assertion. He has a really good promo on his own, though.
Yeah, definitely. But they make a fantastic duo, I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, Mr. Wright having to cash out his life insurance policy, but instead of trying to get a new car after it got smashed to bits and he was in a coma for, I think it was 3.5 days, he told us last week. Instead he's using it as a bounty. He's going to put on Tracy Smothers' head. And you got to love, like, heels being heels. It's like nowadays, no one's going to cut a promo bragging about wanting to win by forfeit because, even if you're a heel, you still want to win, fair and square. It's like, now it's like, yeah, I'll take the win by fucking forfeit. I'll be happy to win the belt by forfeit. It's like, damn. It's like, it's the best heel line I've heard in, weeks.
Yeah. Well, they to be fair, they do have a case that Dirty White Boy rightfully should have been awarded the title based on the referee's decision. So
Yes.
him winning the title by forfeit would only put things back to what should be the status quo.
Yeah. Well, Trey, you know what I haven't had a chance to do in a few weeks?
Yeah, I do it. I know.
Thunder rolls and the lightning strikes. That's right. Tim Horner versus Gary Scott. I wrote the following 9 words. Horner wins with the world's slowest natural bridge.
Well, if it was any faster, he'd have to call it the man-made bridge.
Plus, to show you how bad I'm at counting, that's only 8 words.
Dutch was really casting aspersions on the character of Tim Horner here, and that's me saying that.
I didn't note anything off. Anyway. Do you remember anything he said?
I don't remember the specific wording, but he was heavily implying that Tim Horner had done what had happened in the resulting the title being vacated, that he had done that with intent and malice aforethought.
That could actually be an interesting, point of view if you look at it, because Horner's not going to get any title shots if his good friend Tracy Smothers is the champion. So it behooves him to have White Boy win the belt because then Horner can go back and get more title shots.
The only thing I can imagine that's worse than a babyface Tim Horner is a heel Tim Horner.
I figured you were going to say that, but I thought you were going to say a babyface Tim Horner cutting promos. The only thing worse is a heel Tim Horner cutting promos.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, again, we say every week, perfectly fine worker. We've got no quibble with the man's wrestling acumen.
I don't know. I think I'd actually be kind of interested in hearing a heel Tim Horner promo. I think that, like, he might be able to pull off the right level of smarminess that, it might work to some degree.
What if they did a double turn and the Dirty White Boy turned babyface and Tim Horner turned heel and went with Mr. Ron Wright?
So Horner was with Mr. Wright instead of Dirty White Boy?
Yes.
I think Mr. Wright would have quit, months before he did.
Well, they could have got Don, maybe.
They could have got Don and pretend it was still Ron.
After the way this man beat me with that flaccid object that came out of his pants, I knew I had a wrestler I could manage to the top.
I can just imagine Cottle's face as, Don Wright is talking about Horner's flaccid white object coming out of his pants. God damn it, Cornette, why didn't you call us to get you to help book things in 94?
Yeah, I could have taken the day off from second grade.
Then 94, I was third going into fourth. All right. After Tim Horner finally completed the bridge, we go to a pre-tape promo with the WWA Heavyweight Champion, Chris Candido. Let's go to that now.
Allegedly.
This is the suicide blonde Chris Candido, the real World Heavyweight Champion, and I'm about to embark on a world tour in defense of this, the most prestigious championship belt in professional wrestling, the WWA heavyweight title. And in fact, this world tour is so important that the WWA has went ahead and made me a brand new, even more beautiful, even more expensive championship belt. And I'm ready to come into Smoky Mountain Wrestling and defend this title. And I don't know what the problem is. I haven't gotten a word from anybody yet. All I know is I'm going to be at Smoky Mountain Wrestling next week, and some stupid hillbilly is going to get the chance of a lifetime. He's going to get the chance to take on the real heavyweight champion of the world.
That is the ugliest fucking belt I've ever seen in my life.
So we've established Chris Candido is not really the WWE heavyweight champion. Funnily enough, at this time, as this is taping and airing, he is one half of the ECW tag team champions.
Nice. Was these ugly ass belts the ECW tag team titles, you think?
No, those belts weren't, they weren't like the best belts ever, but they were fine looking.
So yeah, I guess Dennis Corluzzo wanted his belt back. So Candido got this. I don't know where the fuck I don't even want to like credit any company in the history of wrestling with this fucking thing. So Candido gets his belt from somewhere. And he's going to be on the TV show next week to wrestle some hillbilly, possibly for the belt.
That'll be something. Happy to see Chris Candido. You know, I kind of wish that it wouldn't have made any sense, but just from watching the ECW shows that are happening around this time, I kind of wish that both Suicide Blondes were coming in, because I'd like to see them as a team in a good territory.
So you're not loving your Eastern Championship Wrestling?
They have Terry Funk promos, and that's pretty much it.
This was when
Paulie Dangerously Eddie Gilbert promos too.
This was with Eddie Gilbert booking, and you know, Paulie I think said it best later on. He's like, Eddie Gilbert was booking 1987 Memphis in 1993 Philadelphia. Because don't they do an angle over who the King of Philadelphia is or whatever?
Yes, that's the match that they're building to right now, the Texas Barbed Wire Match Massacre.
Between one guy from Tennessee and one guy from Texas to determine the King of Philadelphia.
Yeah. That's how that works.
All right. So then we get our main event. It is Beat the Champ TV title holder, Primetime Brian Lee, versus Jimmy Golden in a Loser Leaves Town after 7 more house shows. Weird ass stip, I know, but you know. Golden got a hell of a reaction coming out, I thought. Like I was like, Jesus Christ, what the hell happened with Jimmy Golden all of a sudden? I noted that Golden was begging up the aisle while Bob and Dutch tried to figure out what WWA stands for. And Dutch's theory was the first W could stand for Wheeling, West Virginia. So Bob Caudle, we've said some nice things and some not nice things about Bob Caudle. But when Dutch says Wheeling, West Virginia, Bob Caudle just deadpans Wheeling, West Virginia Wrestling Association. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed.
What if it really is, it's Wrestling West Virginia. It's WWV, and they just accidentally turn the V upside down so they think it's an A. Maybe that's what Chris Candido is the champion of, and our criticism of him not being the Dennis Coraluzzo WWA champion is misplaced.
There you go. I mean, Philadelphia's not closer to Wheeling than it is to New Jersey, but Philadelphia's closer to Wheeling, West Virginia than New Jersey is, which is not not like the greatest thing I've ever said either. But work with me here.
Anyway,
so
Jimmy Golden was fantastic here. He jumped the babyface from behind, and then he proceeded to spend the whole match alternately selling and stalling. You'd think he was from a family of great Southern wrestlers or something.
I know. I was personally surprised by this myself. I said it was a good Haas match. Dutch was telling the story that since he's still aligned with the stud stable for one more week, he was promised to get half of Golden's money if he were to win here. So he actually comes to ringside for immoral support. He hands the chain to Golden, but the referee caught Golden with it, and he got disqualified. Maybe Corny didn't realize this was Golden's last day. Maybe that was kind of like out of nowhere or whatever. But it's kind of weird with a guy on his way out the door. He doesn't do a job on the way out.
I wonder if he got injured or something, because he's just kind of off for several months before he turns up in WCW.
That's very possible. Unless he was on one of those weird international tours that always happen, but nobody knows about.
We have an interruption on the podcast. My cat is in front of the microphone demanding attention.
That is the most adorable interruption in the history of this podcast, and is the only time I ever wished we had a video version of this show.
I know, right? Floofy baby. Floofy baby. What are you doing? Sweet girl. So my wife is the main cat person. I never had a cat growing up. My mother was allergic to cats. I never had a cat until I lived with my wife. She's a cat person, and all cats love her. And so we had a cat that came with us when we started living together, and then we got another cat that was supposed to be my cat and ended up being her cat, and then we ended up with another cat that. The other cat kind of loves both of us, but this little crazy one that we got about a year ago is she's a daddy's girl. So she likes me in particular, which is I finally won one. I finally have a cat that loves me the most.
Aww, that's adorable. Well, while that's going on, Dr. Tom Pritchard is fluffing his hair out. So let's go to the Heavenly Bodies for an end of the show promo.
Fans, right here with us now, Jim Cornette, the Heavenly Bodies, the new Heavenly Body. I got to say, first of all, though, we've talked to the Armstrongs, and the Armstrongs are united. They are united.
Oh, that is scaring me to death. Yeah. Let me tell you something about Scott and Steve Armstrong. They're the same as their old man. They're a bunch of southern redneck morons. They have never seen the day that they could wrestle like the Heavenly Bodies, never seen a day that they could romance like the Heavenly Bodies, as witnessed by the fact that their girlfriends are calling us constantly. Tom will tell you more about that in a minute. Yeah. But I got something to say. First of all, the Rock and Roll Express, the mystery team, brother, it's almost on you. It's coming up this weekend. And, brother, they're 200 pounds bigger than you are. They're stronger than you are. And they're going to tear the Rock and Roll Express limb from limb and take those tag team titles and deliver them right here to me. And as for Bullet Bob, I'm sorry. As for Methuselah Armstrong, as for old man Armstrong sitting home with cracked ribs, cracked sternum, broken wrist, all kind of bruises, I understand that to make Bob Armstrong feel better, Scott and Steve were going to take him out and take him for a drive. But as soon as they got in the car for 15 minutes, they got lost. You know why? They realized they weren't looking at the road map. They were reading Bullet Bob's varicose veins. You're an old man, you're a has-been, and you're washed up, Bob Armstrong, and you ain't never coming back. Dr. Tom, what about these women constantly calling you night and day?
Jim, it wouldn't be so bad, but the fact of the matter is, you know how diligently we train. You know that we like to get up early and go to the gym. And if Scott and Steve Armstrong's girlfriends will stop calling us and stop trying to get dates with us, maybe we could get some more work accomplished. Well, let me just tell you this. You know, the Armstrongs are a very close family, Jim. I understand that Scott and his dad used to walk to school together. You know why?
Why?
Because they were in the same grade, man.
Hey, I got one more thing to say. Just tell me, Gigolo, just enlighten me. What do the Armstrong family women get after we act like World War II and take away all the men?
Well, ladies,
you get a jiggle, a wiggle, and the whole kit and caboodle. Oh, yes, right there.
And we're going to go. See you next week. And until then, so long for now.
All right. So I love it. It's like in ring, yeah, sure. It's a step down going from Stan Lane to Jimmy Del Rey. No doubt. But you know something, you know, Jimmy Del Rey is fucking amazing in his own way here. You know,
He's amazing at being a slime ball, and it takes this gimmick up a level.
he is such a scumbag, and it's amazing.
Absolutely.
And
so I was gonna.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead and finish.
I really don't have much else to say.
Well, I was gonna say that this was the second time since I've been watching this show that someone referenced a Jeff Foxworthy bit, but then I checked my notes and realized that it was not just the same guy both times; it was the same bit. That was a few months ago. He said the same thing about Ricky Morton. That his dad walked him to school because he was in the same grade. But yeah, Jeff Foxworthy was the height of cultural entertainment in the South in the 90s.
I'll be honest. I listened to a lot of Jeff Foxworthy albums back in the day myself.
You know, it's like I wouldn't say he's like a favorite or anything, but he was like the first stand-up comedian I ever heard, which was the beginning of a lifelong fondness of that medium. I'm like a big stand-up comedy nerd, so and that all started with Jeff Foxworthy, so I have to give him credit for that.
Yes. All right, so that does it for this week's show. I think we can safely say that this was a pretty good little show here, even though, you know, there may not have been a whole lot of great matches, but the promos were just top notch this week.
Absolutely.
All right, so before we go, what we like to do is every week we tell you what else is happening in the world of wrestling, because as I always say, I can tell you that it's May 29th until I'm blue in the face, but giving you some context lets you know, hey, this was also going on. So the big news this week, you know, really wasn't that big of a deal, all things considered, but Vince McMahon has resigned as president of the WWF. He's obviously not going anywhere. This is more just a title change. Linda is now the president, but Vince remains the CEO. Obvious.
Just a random aside. At what point did they go from being Titan Sports to World Wrestling Federation Entertainment? When they went public, or was it been before that?
I believe it was when they went public.
That makes sense.
Yeah. WCW, yes, the very same WCW that you're watching over there every Saturday night, announced that they're cutting back from 300 live house shows this year to only 200. Needless to say, this company that wasn't drawing at all is going to drop even further.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? You watch Saturday night, and you're trying to watch all these Saturday nights. Could you imagine buying a ticket to see the people you're seeing on that show on a house show?
I mean, like I feel like you might get like a nice main event, like you might get Vader against Sting or maybe Vader against Davey Boy Smith, but like there's gonna be a whole lot of shit on that undercard.
Yeah. And also, in one of those famous moments, or it's going to become a famous moment, and maybe I should warn you this is coming if you don't already know, Sting, Davey Boy Smith, Sid Vicious, and Vader were on a Tampa beach a few weeks ago shooting an $80,000 mini movie to build the July 11th Beach Blast pay-per-view. This is the famous one where Cheatham, the one-eyed midget, blows up Sting's boat.
Yeah, I just watched Slamboree 93 last night, so gonna be gearing up for that one here next. That's gonna be the next pay-per-view.
And so yeah, that is the big stuff happening in wrestling. I did make a note, and I think this is because I was just going down a rabbit's hole of bad promos on YouTube the other day. Who is the worst promo, Tim Horner or Jumpin' Jeff Farmer?
Jumpin' Jeff Farmer.
Now, see, I thought you'd go with Horner just because, yeah, Jumpin' Jeff Farmer was bad, no doubt. But Horner had a lot more opportunities. And I just saw something on Dynamite that I can't believe I just saw.
I don't want to know. Don't tell me. I'm going to watch it later.
When you see it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
The thing that happens roughly 17 minutes into the show.
Yes. But it's tremendous. But
yeah.
But yeah. So Horner had a lot more opportunities to theoretically get better, and he, on his best day, he was passable, but he had a lot of bad days to go along with his best day.
That's fair. That's valid.
Yeah.
So yeah, normally we do not record the show while Dynamite is on, but I had to get a root canal yesterday, so I didn't feel up to having a long and animated conversation.
And we were going to do it on Monday, but my computer was acting up and in different ways than it acts up normally during the show. And it turns out it was my flash drive, but I actually fixed it. Somehow I downloaded a torrent that got corrupted, and it fucked up my flash drive, which when I had it plugged in, fucked up my computer. But somehow I was able to get into it and delete those files, and everything works again. So yay.
I wonder if that's what's wrong with the external hard drive I've been having trouble with.
Maybe. I couldn't tell you. By the way, before we go, do you have anything you want to say about Sid?
Yeah, so Sid passed away on Monday, or at least that was when we got the news about it. Very unfortunate news. Sid is one of those guys that, like, I think everybody kind of agrees that, like, he wasn't a great quote unquote scientific wrestler, but he's like almost indisputably was something special in the business, and he did, and that's why he got chance after chance in every company, because he had aura, he had charisma, he had it. The best wrestling characters are the ones who can make you believe that they are who they purport to be, and you always believe that Sid was Sid.
He had a very unique charisma.
It's absolutely.
Like, and there was just something like, and I remember, I think Sid actually said this in a shoot interview. It's like, he was super over in the Northeast for whatever reason. The Northeast fans loved him. And as a Northeast fan, I can attest, we loved the guy.
I watched it Monday, his title win over Shawn Michaels at MSG Survivor Series 96. And he was over as fuck, and it was awesome. And that's like, if you've never seen it, Sid has the most "I'm winning the fucking belt" vibe during his entrance on that show. It's fantastic. And then that match, like, I hadn't watched that match in probably 20 years, and I remembered that it was like pretty good. That match is fucking great, man.
Yeah.
Now, like, it was probably the most motivated that Sid ever was in his career. And for 1996 Shawn Michaels, it was just a Sunday, but that was a fucking tremendous match.
I think it was also not only it's 1996 Shawn Michaels, it's a Sunday. It's, I have to lose this title to this guy, so I'm going to fucking, kill myself if I have to get this match over. Well, to show you what a mark I was, and I get, it's a bad thing to call yourself a mark, but I was a fucking mark at this point. Like, I knew wrestling was fake, but I was a fucking mark. And somehow I got it in my head that if person A beat person B the first time they wrestled, that meant that person B could never beat person A, despite all the evidence to the contrary that I had at the time. But so going into Survivor Series, I'm like, okay, Shawn Michaels beat Sid on that one episode of Raw in 1995. So that means Sid can't win. Shawn's going to win here. And my 12-year-old ass was certainly shocked.
So all the evidence to the contrary, you carried this belief.
Yes. And this despite the fact that Shawn Michaels won the title by beating Bret Hart, somebody that he had never beaten before, or at least somebody that we've never acknowledged he's beaten before, because that tag title change didn't count. So despite that, somehow in my head, this meant that Sid could not beat Shawn Michaels.
Well, speaking of, I just said I watched Slamboree 93 yesterday. That was Sid's return at the side of Colonel Rob Parker, where he fucking massacred Van Hammer, and I got a lot of entertainment value out of that. It's gonna be worse, man. We get to talk. We talk a little shit. We have a little fun at the expense of guys like Tim Horner and others. At least we're not watching fucking Van Hammer.
No. Spoiler, Van Hammer will never be on this show.
Thankfully.
Never.
If he ever shows up, I quit.
Like we get some bad shit on this show, but we never have Van Hammer. Although I bet you $5 that if Bill Watts had stuck with WCW and didn't quit / get fired, we would have seen Van Hammer in Smoky Mountain. I bet he would have convinced Cornette to take him for like 6 months.
Maybe it would have helped him.
Maybe. Thankfully, we'll never know. And unless you and I are doing this until we're 60, there's probably never going to be a time where we're reviewing 1993 WCW Saturday Night.
I'm watching it once, and I can't imagine a scenario where I'd ever want to watch it again.
In 5 years, I say to you, hey, now that we're done Mid-South and World Class, what if we watch Saturday Night starting, in 1985 when Crockett takes over from Vince? And you'll be like, oh, we'll quit long before we get to Van Hammer. So sure.
I think there's a lot of things that we could watch before we sink that low.
The Van Hammer or the WCW Saturday Night? Because WCW Saturday Night until probably 90 was still a great show.
Yeah, we might do it up to we might do it up to 90. Maybe.
So I've become a little obsessed with 1990 WCW lately. I've been watching a decent bit of it. First of all, Norman the Lunatic and Abdullah the Butcher as a babyface tag team. What drugs was Ole Anderson on? Came up with that.
What do you think Ole Anderson's drug of choice was?
I don't fucking know. I don't picture him as somebody who took anything up the nose, but maybe just a bottle of vodka while doing these booking meetings with Herd.
Yeah, well, you'd have to do something if you were working with Jim Herd.
I will also contend, and I have an argument to back this up, that for 5 minutes, it made total sense that Ric Flair was behind the Black Scorpion. Because after Sting won the title, they made a point to say on TV that for some unexplained reason, Ric Flair wasn't able to get any world title shots. It wasn't even explained why. It was just like this generic Ric Flair will not get any title shots at Sting bullshit thing. So with that, it made perfect sense. That's why he's creating this character, the Black Scorpion, to go after this guy since he's not allowed to get any other world title shots. But then 5 minutes later, they did a Black Scorpion promo where he did that bullshit. Do you remember California in '87? Crap. That is like, okay, that's, I don't know who the hell they thought it was going to be. And there's something just happened on Dynamite that I'm really happy that the person involved is standing up right now because I thought they died.
Oh, God.
Fuck. But Yeah, so it made sense until they had the Black Scorpion do that bullshit California in '86 promo.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And it would explain why Ric Flair has no money since he spent it all learning sleight of hand magic.
Yeah, well, he spent a lot on a lot of things.
Yes,
Can
some of
we
it,
go ahead and finish?
I say some of it was even smart use of his money.
Some of it, not much, very little.
Mm.
So now, do you want to waste some time on something nonsensical and stupid that I spent way too much time on?
On this show?
I know it's unprecedented, but let me cook, as the kids say.
So in between talking about the Black Scorpion and Abdullah the Butcher, I don't know if we could possibly do something serious, but we'll or do something off the wall. But we'll see. Go ahead and see what you can give us.
Okay, so we touched on the other show that we did this week. The trivia note of people who have wrestled at all four: Wembley Stadium, Madison Square Garden, Tokyo Dome, and Arena Mexico. And I did the math, which was hard because I'm bad at math. I not only have what I am confident is the total list of people who have done all four. I think I have a mostly complete list of everybody who only needs one to complete the set.
Interesting. Go on.
Yeah. All right. So before the show that happened this past Sunday, there were only 6 on the list that had done all four, and just based on this year's All In, another 7 made the list. So let's do the 6 that were on the list before this Sunday. Which ones can you name?
So before All In, name the 6 people.
Yeah, before All In 2024.
All right. So Jericho,
Mm-hmm.
Juice Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
John Tenta,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably somebody really obvious. I said Jericho. Juice is like the only reason I remember Juice is because like it's such a random ass person too. Um, goddamn. Osprey maybe?
Not Osprey. One is super obvious.
Okada?
Okada just made the list. He was not on the list before.
Really? I thought he wrestled last year at Wembley.
No.
Oh. Did Tana wrestle last year at Wembley?
Nope.
Tanahashi? Oh.
Nope.
Something tells me Zack Sabre Jr. is a new inductee into this list. I'm kind of surprised Osprey was on last year's show. That wasn't him making the list.
Osprey's missing Arena Mexico.
Really? I just kind of
Yep.
assumed he was on the list. All right, guys, if you did that. Jay White, but he's probably missing Arena Mexico.
You're going everywhere around it, and you're gonna face palm when you realize it.
Matt Taven.
Nope.
But he didn't wrestle, did he? No. Actually, he did. He was on the pre-show. But Savage? No. Certainly not.
You're naming a bunch of people that are on the only missing one list.
Brett? No. Bulldog? Probably not. Undertaker? Because the WWF did a bunch of shows in Mexico, but I don't know if it was at Arena Mexico.
Okay, it's someone who was on All In 2023.
Oh, god damn. Only 87 people are on that show. Can you narrow it down just a smidge?
I'm going to practically hand it to you. They just did Arena Mexico for the first time this year.
That is not as helpful as you think it is. let me see. It wasn't Adam Cole. It wasn't MJF.
No,
No, he wasn't. He didn't do Madison Square Garden.
no,
He didn't do Tokyo Dome either. I don't think.
no,
1 second. Let me look up the All In 22. Daddy Ass.
no.
Um, 1 second here. All right. Kyle Fletcher. CM Punk. No, he wasn't in the Tokyo
No,
Dome. Never mind. Samoa Joe.
no,
Takeshita. No, he wasn't in
no,
Madison Square Garden. Um, no, that was no, they were gone. Ibushi.
no,
Um, FTR. Yeah, FTR.
no.
FTR. Didn't
FTR's
they do
never
all?
FTR's never done Arena Mexico.
Then where the hell did they wrestle when they were just there in AAA last year?
In AAA, which has never run Arena Mexico.
Oh, never mind. Uh, I'm assuming not Penta and Phoenix. Uh, Claudio?
Nope.
Moxley?
Moxley.
I mean, come on. Like, okay, I guess maybe, but it's like that. Like, you gotta give me a little bit more help than that. Like, I'm just going down the fucking results of last year's All In.
I thought I was helping. I thought it was really obvious.
Yeah, apparently
The-
not. Apparently I do
All right.
not care enough about Arena Mexico.
All right, there's two more that were on the list before this year.
Okay.
You want to guess? Or you want me to tell you?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't no.
Okay. All right. Haku and Road Warrior Animal.
All right. Hooray for
And
randomness.
then joining the list this year were Bryan Danielson, Jay Lethal, Mark Briscoe, Kazuchika Okada, Rocky Romero, Tomohiro Ishii, and Zack Sabre Jr.
Interesting.
Now the list of needs Arena Mexico is quite extensive. It is Adam Cole, Barry Darsow, Billy Gunn, Bret Hart. Yes, these are in alphabetical order, so I could remember who was where. Brian Adams, Cash Wheeler, also Dax Harwood, both of FTR. Christian Cage, Davey Boy Smith, Dustin Rhodes, Jay White, Jeff Jarrett, Jim Duggan, Kota Ibushi, Kyle O'Reilly, Mike Rotunda, Randy Savage, Ricochet, Rick Martel, Road Warrior Hawk, Shawn Michaels, Ted DiBiase, Tito Santana, Typhoon, The Ultimate Warrior, and Will Ospreay. Those are the ones that need Arena Mexico.
So what you're saying is TK needs to book a show at Arena Mexico and like have like a Legends match as like a dark match or something.
Yeah. I think because Will already said that he wants to go to Arena Mexico to complete the set, so I see that happening probably sooner rather than later. I don't know the probability of anybody else making Arena Mexico. Some of them could. Jay White could go. Maybe Adam Cole when he gets better. I don't know. Ricochet'd be really fun in Arena Mexico, but I think Ospreay will be the next off that list to make it. All right, now I'm going to sit down to what is actually the longest list. And this is the one that if I missed anybody, they're probably on the Just Needs Wembley Stadium list. But that list is AJ Styles, Andrade, Andre the Giant, Bob Backlund. There are only 3 women on this whole list, and they are all on the Needs Wembley list. And they are Bull Nakano, Lioness Asuka, and Mayu Iwatani. Then Bushi. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'd say I'm seeing problems with the women making that 4 for 4 there.
Yeah. So Bushi, Chris Benoit, I don't think he's going to make it.
Probably not.
Davey Boy Smith Jr., ironically, Delirious, Dick Togo, Dory Funk Jr., Dragon Lee, and this is the Dragon Lee that is currently Dragon Lee in WWE. Eric from the Viking Raiders, Raymond Rowe, Finn Balor, George Takano, the Cobra. Now I'm going to name several giants in a row: Giant Baba, Giant Bernard, Giant Silva, and the Great Khali, all missing Wembley Stadium. The Great Muda.
Great Khali is wrestled in Arena Mexico.
Great Khali wrestled in Arena Mexico.
Okay, then.
Great Muda, Hiroki Goto, Hiroshi Tanahashi, late Jay Briscoe, Jeff Cobb, Jushin Thunder Liger, Kushida. Here's one that you might be surprised by: Mark Jindrak.
I'm more surprised that he had the Tokyo Dome.
One time it was like 2005. He teamed with Charlie Haas against I think like Yuji Nagata and Manabu Nakanishi, or maybe it was Manabu Nakanishi and Kendo Kashin. But yeah, he had the one Tokyo Dome. Matt Sydal, Metalik, the wrestler formerly known as Grand Metalik, and Mascara Dorada, Mil Mascaras. So maybe there's a chance that 70-something Mil Mascaras will make Wembley next year and complete the list.
He'll find a way to go
over. Minoru Suzuki, Mystico, Phil LaFon, aka Dan Crawford, Ricky Choshu, Ryusuke Taguchi, Sabu, Seiji Sakaguchi, Shelton Benjamin, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sho, Taiji Ishimori, Tajiri, Taka Michinoku, Tamatanga Tangaloa, Tatsumi Fujinami, Tiger Mask, the original Tiger Mask, Satoru Sayama, Tetsuya Naito, Ultimo Dragon, Vader, Yoshihashi, and Yoshitatsu.
If the annual gauntlet becomes an annual thing, I could totally see Minoru Suzuki being an entrant one of these years, just because who wouldn't love to hear that many people screaming Kaze Ninare?
Yeah. And if WWE, if they do SummerSlam or WrestleMania at Wembley, AJ's gonna make it, Shinsuke might make it. Maybe that's all from that list.
Here's a question for you. Do you think Shin's being punished for Okada going to AEW? Because Nakamura, he was getting I don't want to say a random push, because I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but he was getting a push, decent push for a little while, and then Okada signed with AEW and his push ended. When was the last time he was even on TV?
I couldn't tell you.
I mean, and you're the person who you watch everything. And I don't mean this in a bad way. You watch everything.
I pretty much only watch the WWE pay-per-views.
Damn, man, you're killing me.
Okay.
I don't even know if he's been on Speed, which is the most useless show ever.
I don't think he's been on Speed. So anyway, so we've got 6 left total. Okay, there are 4 that only need the Tokyo Dome. And 3 of them may very well make it in 2025. Okay. The other one is no longer with them. As far as the one who is no longer with us, I will give you a hint.
Oh, Jesus.
It is somebody that we watch on these podcasts every week.
Tracy Smothers.
No.
I mean, that's a pretty good guess.
If you were trying to promote this person, yeah, it's a decent guess. If you were trying to promote this person, you might show a video clip of him slamming Andre the Giant.
Oh, well, obviously, Mil Mascaras. No, obviously we're talking about Kamala here.
It was on the other list. It was Kamala. Really, I was actually surprised he never made a Tokyo Dome card because he worked in Japan a lot, but was never at the Tokyo Dome.
But was
Okay,
he
so
working?
the other three are all people who could feasibly join. Sorry, go ahead.
I'd say, was he wrestling in Japan frequently when they started wrestling at the Tokyo Dome? Because they didn't start doing Tokyo Dome until '89.
I get a little mixed up because there was another Kamala in All Japan, and sometimes I kind of forget which was which, but I'm thinking we have he did Super World Sport in '92, the year that they did dome shows, but they were never any of those. Last time he worked All Japan was '91, and All Japan didn't run the Tokyo Dome until '98, or at least not a solely All Japan show. But but the way that they bring legends in for random spots, like they could have got Kamala in there at some point.
He could have done the Rambo.
All right, so the three
foot.
who could yeah, absolutely. That would have been awesome, actually. The three who will probably, or at least could, make it in 2025. You want to guess?
Cesaro, Claudio.
Correct.
I don't know. Since I'm thinking of the Blackpool
That only
Combat
counts
Club,
as one though.
Wheeler Yuta.
No, Yuta's only got Wembley and Arena Mexico.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Madison Square Garden, dumbass. I don't know. Did Swerve do a?
You're really
MSG
close
house
though.
show?
Claudio. I don't know.
I've got no idea.
You were so close. You were so close when you were thinking about Claudio and Yuta, though.
And we already said Danielson and Moxley. Regal?
No.
I got. Who the hell else is
Who won the Trios Championship with Claudio? Who won the Trios Championship with Claudio and Yuta on Sunday?
Pac. Yeah.
And there's one more. There's one more. It's someone that you have expressed a certain kind of fondness for.
Julia Hart. I know Julia Hart never did Madison Square Garden, and I doubt she. Actually, Julia Hart probably did 0 of 3 so far.
I don't think she's done any of them. Yeah, I don't think she's done any of them.
Saraya.
No.
A certain fondness?
It is someone whose name you said earlier when you were guessing who has done all 4.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
A certain affection, at least.
Male or female?
Male.
I have no idea.
Matt Taven.
Oh. There you go.
Yeah.
Love me some Matt Taven.
Only needs Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. He really
did. Now we got 2 left. There are only 2 I could find.
Wait, when him and Bennett were a regular team, they didn't do the Tokyo Dome?
They did not do the Tokyo Dome. Nope.
I'm legitimately surprised. Okay. And
he did a ton of Arena Mexico in like the late 2010s though.
Okay. So who are the 2 guys? Who are the 2 other guys?
Now we got two who only need Madison Square Garden. You want to guess?
No.
Okay. Katsuyori Shibata, Lio Rush.
Well, Shibata probably would have worked in 2019, but he was busy having his brain removed, put back in. And the problem with Lio
I
Rush
was actually surprised that Lio Rush was with WWE for several years and never got an MSG match.
well, he probably retired on his way to the ring.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Couple hours like I would have thought Trent would have been 3 out of the 4, but he also never got an MSG match when he was with WWE.
Trent? Yeah.
But yeah,
All right.
Trent question mark, yeah.
All right. So I guess
So yeah,
That's-
there was my very pointless waste of time.
oh Lord.
That was my very pointless waste of time exercise.
Remember when we were over with the show like 40 minutes ago? All right.
Yeah,
So
I know. I think yeah, I think we've developed a delay just right at the end here, so it's probably a good time to take it home.
it is. All right.
You
So
can't hear
before
me
we
at
go-
all. Yeah,
Yeah.
just take it home. Take it home.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll talk to you again in 7 days.